Every morning, before the city woke up, a black car would stop near a quiet cemetery at the edge of town. Inside it sat a man who once had everything: money, power, and love. But ever since his wife passed away, all the wealth in the world felt empty to him. He would step out of the car, holding a small bouquet of white lilies, and walk slowly toward one grave. He never missed a single day, not even in the rain or cold wind. The grave belonged to the only woman he had ever loved. 5 years had passed since her death, yet the pain felt just as fresh. He would stand there in silence, brushing the dust from the marble stone, his fingers tracing her name. Sometimes he would whisper softly, as if she could still hear him. "I kept my promise," he would say. "I never stopped coming." People in the town had gotten used to seeing him. They whispered stories about the rich man who spent more time at a graveyard than in his mansion. Some said he had lost his mind. Others said it was true love. But no one really knew what went through his heart when he stood there every morning. His wife's death had changed him completely. Before she passed, he was known for his strict attitude and sharp business mind. But after she was gone, he became quiet. He stopped attending parties, stopped meeting friends, and closed himself off from the world. The only thing that gave him peace was visiting her grave. It was the one place where he felt close to her again. One cloudy morning, as he placed fresh flowers on the grave, he noticed a small figure standing a few steps away. It was a little boy, maybe 6 or 7 years old, holding a small bunch of wildflowers in his hands. The boy looked nervous. His clothes were old but clean, and his eyes were full of innocence. The man didn't pay much attention at first. Children sometimes played near the cemetery gates, but this boy didn't move or speak. He just stood there staring at the same grave the man visited every day. The man finally turned and asked gently, "Who are you visiting, son?" The boy looked up, hesitated, and whispered, "Her." The man frowned slightly. "You mean this grave?" The boy nodded, his small fingers tightening around the flowers. The man felt a strange chill, but he said nothing more. He placed the lilies down and walked away as usual. But for the first time in years, he couldn't stop thinking about someone else's presence at the grave. The next day he came again. And again the boy was there, standing near the same grave, silent, holding wildflowers. The man wanted to ask questions, but something stopped him. There was something fragile about the boy's face, like he carried a secret too heavy for his small heart. Days turned into weeks. Every morning the same routine repeated. The man with his lilies, the boy with his wildflowers. They never spoke much, but their quiet connection grew. Sometimes the man would bring an extra candy or small toy, leaving it for the boy without saying a word. The boy would smile shyly and whisper, "Thank you." One rainy morning, the man arrived later than usual. The cemetery was almost empty, the rain tapping gently on the stones. When he reached the grave, he saw the boy sitting there, soaked but not moving. The sight made the man's heart ache. He took off his coat and placed it around the boy's shoulders. "You shouldn't be here in this weather," he said softly. "You'll get sick." The boy looked up at him, eyes full of tears. "I come here because she told me to," he said. The man froze. His mind couldn't process what he just heard. "Who told you?" he asked quietly. The boy looked at the grave and whispered, "The lady in my dreams. She tells me stories. She says she used to love you very much." The man's heart started to pound. For a moment he felt dizzy. The rain, the cold, and those words mixed into something unreal. He knelt beside the boy and tried to speak, but no words came out. The boy continued, "She said I should bring her flowers too, so she doesn't feel lonely." Tears filled the man's eyes, but he didn't know what to say. He felt as if his wife's spirit was reaching out to him through this child. But how was that possible? Who was this boy? That night he couldn't sleep. The image of the boy sitting in the rain haunted him. He wanted to believe it was just coincidence, maybe imagination. But deep down, something told him there was more, something he needed to know. The next morning, when he reached the cemetery again, the boy wasn't there. For the first time in months, the place felt truly empty. He looked around, hoping to see that small face again, but there was no sign of him. As he stood there alone, a single thought echoed in his mind. Who is that child? And what truth does he carry? And for the first time in 5 long years, the man felt both fear and hope at the same time. The next few days felt longer than usual. The man's heart was restless. He had grown used to seeing the boy near the grave every morning. But now that small figure had vanished as suddenly as he had appeared. Each visit felt incomplete without him. He tried to focus on work, on meetings and reports. But his mind kept drifting back to the cemetery and the strange words the boy had said. She told me to bring her flowers too. On the fourth day, when he arrived at the cemetery again, he noticed something lying near the grave. It was a tiny wooden toy, a small carved bird, simple but beautiful. The man picked it up carefully. It was handmade, the kind of toy a child might craft or cherish. He looked around, but the boy was nowhere to be seen. The toy felt like a message, silent but meaningful. That night he asked his driver to find out if anyone in the nearby neighborhood knew a boy who visited the cemetery. The driver returned the next day and told him about a small orphanage not far from the graveyard. The boy might belong there, he said. The man didn't hesitate. He went there himself. The orphanage was old but clean. Children's laughter filled the air, mixed with the faint smell of fresh bread from the kitchen. A kind-looking woman greeted him at the door. When he asked about the boy, her face softened. "Ah, you must be talking about little Arif," she said. "He goes to the cemetery often. He says there's a lady who listens to him when he talks." The man felt a strange chill again. "Do you know his story?" he asked quietly. The woman nodded. "He came here about 5 years ago. He was left at the gate one night, wrapped in a blanket with a note that said, 'Please take care of him.' No one knows who left him. 5 years. The same year his wife had passed away." The man's hands trembled slightly. He tried to stay calm. "Has anyone ever claimed him?" "No," the woman replied softly. "But he's a gentle boy, quiet, polite, and always talking about a lady in white who visits him in dreams. We thought it was just imagination." The man thanked her and left, but his heart was full of questions. The timeline, the dreams, the way the boy spoke about his late wife. It couldn't all be coincidence. That night he went through his wife's old things again, opening boxes he hadn't touched in years. Letters, photographs, and the diary she had kept during her illness. Her handwriting still carried warmth, every word full of love. In one of the last pages he found something he had never noticed before. A short note, almost hidden between the lines. "If I am gone and you ever meet a child who smiles like I once did, don't turn away. There's a part of me still in that smile." His hands froze. Could it be possible? Could this child be somehow connected to her? Maybe through something she never told him? Something she did to protect him from grief? The next morning he returned to the orphanage, hoping to see the boy again. This time, the boy was in the garden playing with a small group of children. When he saw the man, he stopped and smiled shyly as if he had been expecting him. "You came back," the boy said. "Yes," the man replied, kneeling to meet his eyes. "I wanted to thank you for bringing flowers to her grave." The boy nodded seriously. "She likes the white ones. She said they remind her of peace." The man's breath caught in his throat. "She told you that? In your dreams?" The boy nodded again. "She talks to me sometimes. She says you're sad and you don't have to be anymore." The man tried to smile, but tears filled his eyes. "What else did she tell you?" The boy hesitated, then whispered, "That you shouldn't be alone. She said you must forgive her and one day you'll understand everything." The man was silent for a long moment. His heart felt heavy but strangely calm. There was something pure in the boy's word, too sincere to be a lie. He looked at the child and said softly, "Would you like to come visit her grave with me today?" The boy's eyes brightened. "Can I really?" "Of course," the man said. They drove together to the cemetery. The boy held the same wildflowers in his hand, smiling as they walked side by side. For the first time in years, the man didn't feel alone on that path. When they reached the grave, the boy placed the flowers gently and whispered something the man couldn't hear. Then he turned to him and said, "She's happy you're not crying today." The man felt tears well up, but this time they were warm, not painful. He reached out and rested his hand gently on the boy's shoulder. As the wind blew softly through the trees, the boy looked up again and said, "She told me to tell you something. But I can't say it yet. Not until I know you're ready." The man's heart skipped a beat. "Ready for what?" The boy smiled a little. "For the truth." Those words echoed in his mind all day. The truth. The very thing that had haunted him for years. What really happened before his wife passed away. Now somehow it seemed this child knew it. But how could a 7-year-old possibly know anything about her? That night he couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the boy's face. the same innocent smile and those calm eyes that seemed far older than his age. He knew one thing for sure. Tomorrow, he would find out what that truth was. And for the first time in 5 long years, he felt a small spark of hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, he would finally understand the message his wife had left behind. The next morning, the man arrived at the orphanage earlier than usual. The sun had barely risen and the streets were still quiet. He couldn't stop thinking about the boy's words. "She told me to tell you something, but only when you're ready." As he stepped into the garden, he saw the boy sitting under a tree, playing with that same little wooden bird. The moment he saw the man, he smiled and waved. That smile, so pure and full of life, touched something deep inside him. The man sat down beside the boy and said gently, "You told me yesterday that you know something. Something about her. Do you remember what it was?" The boy looked at him, hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, but I can't just say it." She said, "You must listen to your heart first, not your mind," the man sighed softly. "And how will I know when I'm ready?" The boy thought for a moment. "When you stop blaming yourself," he said quietly. Those words hit him like a stone. He turned his face away, feeling a wave of emotion rise in his chest. For years he had carried guilt. Guilt that he hadn't done enough to save his wife. Guilt that he hadn't been there when she needed him most. He had buried that pain deep inside, pretending that visiting her grave every day was enough to make up for it. But hearing those words from a child made the wound feel raw again. He looked at the boy and asked softly, "Did she tell you why she left me so suddenly?" The boy shook his head. "She didn't say it like that. She said she didn't leave you, she only went where she had to. She said sometimes love means going far away so someone else can learn how to live again." The man stared at him, speechless. The child's words sounded far too wise, too meaningful for his age. "Do you really see her in your dreams?" he asked. The boy nodded slowly. "Yes, she sits by the river. She smiles a lot. Sometimes she cries. She says she watches you every day, standing by her grave, and she wants you to know she never wanted to see you sad." Tears burned the man's eyes again. "What else did she tell you, son?" The boy looked down at his hands, fiddling with the wooden bird. "She told me you were the kindest man she ever knew, but you forgot to forgive yourself. She said she left a letter for you, but you never found it." The man's head snapped up. "A letter?" The boy nodded. "Yes. She said it's hidden where the sun meets the roses." He frowned. "What does that mean?" The boy shrugged. "That's all she said." Those words stayed in the man's mind all day. Where the sun meets the roses. He couldn't make sense of it, but something about it sounded familiar. That evening, after dropping the boy back at the orphanage, he drove home and began searching through the garden his wife had once loved so much. She had always adored roses. There was a whole section in their backyard filled with red and white roses she had planted herself. Every morning she used to sit by them with her tea, saying the sunlight made them smile. Where the sun meets the roses. Could that be it? He went to the garden and walked slowly among the flowers. The evening sun was low and its light fell beautifully across one corner of the garden. There, beside a small white bench, he noticed something he had never seen before, a loose tile under the soil. His heart began to race. He knelt down, brushed the dirt away carefully, and lifted the small stone. Beneath it was a folded piece of paper, yellowed with time. His hands trembled as he opened it. It was her handwriting. The letter was short, but every word felt alive. "My love, if you ever find this, it means I have kept my promise. Please don't let sorrow chain your heart. You gave me more love than I ever dreamed of. But there is something you must know. I didn't want to leave you alone, so I left behind a part of me. Something pure, something innocent, something that will one day bring you peace. When you meet him, you'll know. Take care of him like you would have taken care of me. He will show you the truth." His eyes widened, tears falling freely. "He will show you the truth." He thought of the boy, his eyes, his smile, the way he spoke about her as if he had known her forever. Could it really be that this child was somehow connected to her in ways beyond understanding? That night the man couldn't stop thinking about the letter. He felt something shift inside him, a calmness he hadn't felt in years. For the first time since her death, he didn't dream of her crying. Instead, he dreamt of her smiling beside a small boy who looked just like him. The next day, he went back to the orphanage again. The boy ran to him with excitement. "You found it, didn't you?" he said, his eyes shining. The man nodded slowly. Yes, I did. She left me a letter. The boy smiled softly. Then you're ready now. The man knelt down holding the boy's hands. Ready for what? The boy looked deep into his eyes. For the truth about who I really am. The man felt his heart stop for a moment. 1,000 questions flooded his mind, but before he could speak, the boy whispered, She said you'd understand when you see the whole picture. You already have the first half. The rest is in me. The man's hands trembled slightly. He didn't fully understand yet, but something inside told him that the truth he'd been searching for was closer than ever. And for the first time in 5 years, when he looked at the boy, he didn't just see a stranger. He saw a reflection of the woman he had loved, and perhaps a reason to live again.